Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Oscar's Corner Cafe. Today's date is February 7th, 2026. I wanted to say welcome back to the channel, and thank you very much for continuing and embarking on this journey and appreciation and supporting the channel and where it's going and where it's trending. Today's episode is going to be a little bit special. I'm doing this one a little bit earlier than normal. I tend to do these and try to release them on Mondays, just because I kind of want to get ahead of it, of the week. But like the previous episode, this weekend is going to be one that is going to be very special and very different. We have the Super Bowl that's being celebrated tomorrow. So if you're out there with family, if you're hosting or doing whatever it is that you're doing, just do it safely. Don't be reckless. Don't be stupid. Don't be dumb. Don't get in trouble, especially if you have more to lose than normal. And if you are in your 20s or 30s listening to this, make the right decisions and don't be reckless, right? But with that being said, let's dive in. So what are we going to be talking about in today's episode, this 45-minute rant of me just talking to you? So number one, we're going to touch on a little bit of the Super Bowl, not much because we actually touched on that last week on the previous episode. I did want to reiterate a couple things. We're going to follow through in regarding body augmentation and why do it, etc. And then we're going to touch on the differences of having multiple children, the sort of relationship you're going to have with one versus the other. Then we're going to touch on making better decisions if you're a single parent and how that impacts the child. Because again, this is the core of this channel is a parental's perspective, right? So I'm going to touch on that a little bit and kind of go through a little bit of my personal background and my experience when it comes to my firstborn. And you might relate with it, you might not, but either way, it's a great listen. And hopefully you guys can sit through and go from there. But before we chime in, I did want to tackle something real quick. And I don't like to do too much politics on this channel, just because that's not the primary focus of what we're trying to do here. However, I felt that it was necessary and warranted for me to speak on something in particular that just transpired and something that's going on in the news. So, number one, as some of you know and are aware of, and if you have been, I guess, watching social media, you have noticed that there has been an uptick in releases and leaked footages of the Epstein files and the emails and the videos and the propaganda. And I just want to err on the side of caution, is to be very mindful and be very careful of the videos that you watch. And I've noticed a few of the really dark ones, and people are putting them on TikTok and editing and reposting them and adding their caption on top of it. And there's a way where you can find out when certain videos are AI generated. And typically speaking, if you copy the hyperlink of the video and you go on your desktop and you do all these other shenanigans, you can kind of decode and figure out when something's legit and when something's not. And what I've noticed on some of the videos that have been very, very dark, very macabre, and they've been very twisted. And I'm not going to go into details as to what these videos entail, but I'm sure a lot of you have seen them with a lot of the content creators. A lot of them have posted those videos and shared their input in regards to the whole thing and how disgusting it is, because it was. And the sad part about it, I think, is that all of this shit really did exist. And this gentleman exposed the dark side of a lot of people, and he brought the bad stuff to really already sketchy people and brought out their own inner inhibitions, their own darker practices, stuff that people do behind closed doors, not out on the open. And he made it a real life situation, and he benefited from it, whether it was through connections, whether it was through financial gain, whether it was through favors, etc. It did occur. So, however, just be mindful of the videos. But the ones that I did see, that I did validate that in fact were legit and were real, it is very, very scary to know that there is a side in this world where this stuff, in fact, exists. It's monetized and people are exploiting it. And the fact that some of the people that we follow in the media, some of actors, there's rumored to be musical industry folks, higher ups, CEOs of very highly reputable companies are involved in these videos. In whatever context it is, whether they were caught red-handed or mere simply just being on the guy's contact list on his cell phone, the point is that this person was in touch with these folks in some way, shape, or form. And it throws a very big question mark on a lot of people and their own ethical practices. And it should make you think and reconsider before you idolize and before you look up to certain individuals, because you'll be surprised that a lot of these folks might have had something twisted going on in this island. Now, a lot of this stuff is alleged. Nothing's really been concrete. There's been a lot of videos and there's been a lot of files and emails and redacted stuff that has come out. And at this point, it's very difficult to follow the breadcrumbs as to what's legit and what's not. But the moral of the story is that this shit did exist. And if you dig down that rabbit hole and try to do your own research and try to find who were people accused, possibly partaking in some of these events, it's going to be alarming, because a lot of the people that you never even thought for a minute would even be involved or in the same venue, the same place as this individual, were mentioned in his files, right? Because this gentleman was notorious for keeping track and tabs on everyone that he ran across in some way, shape, or form. And he did this primarily based on my understanding, and I think there's been a couple autobiographies and documentaries about this gentleman and his shenanigans and his spouse, that he used these tactics to blackmail folks, to keep them under his leash, and to benefit his monetary gain, influence, and power within those individuals. Now, how that translated, it's hard to tell. Now, the gentleman is no longer alive. Some of you know, he went to jail and he passed away under mysterious circumstances that to this day, nobody knows how it happened. Video cameras went awry, ironically speaking, or conveniently in the area that he was supposedly being harbored in. And we just don't know. So there's massive question marks. And now even some folks that are even in the current administration are involved in some way, shape, or form. They're tied to this individual and his shenanigans. And there's a very popular clip of certain folks that are in power, I'm not going to mention their names, that were in these videos, in these situations, in these parties, that innocently enough, the videos that you see and that are visible, it's just normal stuff. But if you really look at it from a parental perspective, you're going to be looking at it like something ain't right in those videos. There's a lot of underage children in these videos, in party scenarios. Now, if these kids were someone's or somebody's, you just don't know. You can only speculate. There's a lot of speculation going around. And however, because of the individuals that were in these clips and these videos and those individuals' behaviors, I wouldn't put it past the truth or some credibility to some of these videos and accusations of certain individuals being into some really weird stuff, right? And there is videos and emails about pizza parties and muffins, etc. And a lot of the stuff, and people are trying to decipher what this pizza thing is, right? And what muffins are. And the context in which of these emails are being created, it makes you think. And it's only implied as to what you think it might be. And what it's implying, it's not good, all right? It's a lot of underage stuff going on, and I don't even want to dive into it because I think it's pretty twisted, it's pretty fucked up. But if you are that type of individual that likes these sort of documentaries, there's tons of stuff online that you can look up to I don't want to bombard my algorithm, let alone my computer, with this stuff, because that shit's really highly sensitive. And half the time, or 70% of the stuff that you see online, you don't even know if it's legit. So err with the side of caution, including the videos that you see. However, reserve your own judgment and your own analysis of what you see. The gentleman did really dark stuff. He was involved in a lot of really kinky stuff, not very good stuff. And if in fact, those individuals that are being listed within these files are in fact those folks that did partake in some of these parties and events and rituals, etc., then may God have mercy on their soul. And if you're an atheist, if you don't believe in God, that's your decision. Totally respect it. However, from my belief and my religious belief, they're going to have somebody to report to and look up to, and somebody who's going to be requesting some payback, right? And in the religious aspect. Now, the other side of it now, the other part of the news is, the last stuff I think we spoke about in the last episode was ICE and everything that's going on with ICE and how things are changing. Fortunately, I think people are starting to catch wind and finally decided to do something about it after the recent killing that just happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They started to implement legislations where basically, if you don't know, they're going to be requiring ICE agents to, number one, carry body cams and make sure their dash cameras are working and properly functioning at all their stops. Number two, the other thing, which I think is awesome, is that they're going to be required now to demask. They're no longer going to be allowed to wear ski masks while they're performing their duties or responsibilities, whatever that is. And a lot of folks, or the rebuttal against that particular rule, is that they don't want those individuals to be basically found out. And doxed basically is a term that kids use these days, which is basically when people can find your identity, your background, your ethnicity, where you live, through any means possible, through your facial recognition. And there was a lot of apprehension about having those individuals have that ability to be exposed because of what they're doing. And a lot of people there's a lot of smart individuals out there that will look and find you. And I personally love that, the fact that they're not going to be masked anymore. I figured, hey, if you're going to be doing this job just like a firefighter does, just like the CIA agent, just like an FBI official does, a U.S. Marshal, and anybody in shape or form that's doing some sort of law enforcement or protection of the federal duties and responsibilities, you should have no shame in showing your face and what you're really doing. Unless you have some apprehensions or you feel some type of way about what you're doing, in which case you're in the wrong field and then you're in the wrong line of work. And again, everybody wants to make their dollar. I totally get it. However, I'm totally with it. So if you're going to be enforcing these rules and federal regulations, demask. Show everybody what you're doing. Why hide it? What's the point of you hiding it? Oh, the other thing that came out too with all this stuff, like, because again, the gentleman who runs ICE or ran Border Patrol or whatever the hell it was, he was let go or demoted or transferred to another department back to where he was at. So they removed him completely. And now ICE really doesn't have really solid leadership, or a fall guy, I like to call it. And so now everybody's panicking because they're scattering. So what do? They're implementing these rules and regulations to allow us, the public, to tolerate their shenanigans a little bit, because now they're putting in measures to hold them accountable, which should have been from the very beginning, mind you. It shouldn't be after the fact, after two people lost their lives, and I don't even know how many countless others lost their lives while they're currently being held, because that's another data that a lot of folks don't even know about. If you really want to do research, Google the amount of people that have passed away while they are being held. Google it, and you'll be amazed. And a good chunk of them, I actually have legit papers. wrongful incarceration, multiple lawsuits. The point is that this shit's getting out of hand. So, but now they're implementing all these changes to allow the public to feel a little bit more comfortable with their actions, and this is where we're at. But all those changes are happening. Pause for a second. Let me take a sip of my coffee. Oh man, that's good coffee. So now the other topic I wanted to touch on was that I think this weekend something interesting happened, and I want to put it to you folks, you guys that are listening, and you let me know if I am overreacting or folks are overreacting. So just recently, there has been some changes and policy changes that the current administration has done that have prompted certain individuals to go on social media and point out and vent their opinion on this particular topic. And this gentleman is basically really excitingly, he's representing his joy for the decisions that he's made, and the administration before him and their policies and their rules and their changes and blah, 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 blah. The point is that he got rid of those changes that were made by the previous administration. So he's gloating, right? So he's peacocking is what I like to call it. Basically, when you're boasting and you're sticking out your chest, like with full pride that you made all these changes, that you did all these things, because I'm not going to lie, the gentleman's an egomaniac. So let's just call it for what it is. Now, on this social media platform, he made a very, very big mistake. Now, who made it and why it was made, I do not know. That's not even what's important. The point is that there was a video released with captions about what happened and the changes with the Obamas, Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle, being depicted in a very, very disrespectful way. And if you've never seen the videos, I'm going to describe it to you this way. And so, trigger alert, if you're sensitive to this, be mindful, turn away, fast forward, or pause, or if you want to listen through it, just hear me out. And I promise to be as most respectful as I possibly can with it, okay? So the video basically shows him in a big post. And I believe it's a GIF, I like to call it. And it shows the Barack Obamas, the Obama family, Michelle and Barack, depicted as apes, as monkeys. And they're, regardless of the caption or the context that it's being used, the point is that, let me explain something to you that are listening. For you to create that GIF and that video and image, there is a process that was made prior to making that video. There is an individual, persons, or a team that put this together, edited it, and imposed the images of the Obamas on these primates doing dumb stuff. And they edited it, they compiled it, they finalized it, it's saved on somebody's hard drive. They sent it to somebody else for confirmation and approval. And it was approved by whoever the hell it was approved by, and it was posted on the social media platform. Now, this is where it gets weird. The current administration has a tendency to post stuff on his own. And a lot of people think that he's got a team or a party posting stuff on his behalf. I believe that he does. However, there are some cases where this gentleman does post stuff on his own. And this might have been one of those where he maybe didn't really think out. He really didn't think it out that there was going to be consequences for this behavior. So he posted the video and caught backlash for it and immediately removed it. Then now his public relations department is in total, like, they're in repair mode at this point, trying to reestablish stuff that, oh no, he didn't mean it that way, you guys are taking it the wrong way, and etc. Even where basically, I believe the press house secretary came out and said, hey, by the way, you guys are taking it out of context, you're making it way bigger than it is, just completely dismissing and belittling the decision that was made in making this video. That was completely, utterly disrespectful and racist as hell. That's just what it is. It was racist, disrespectful, and has no business being in any sort of social media platform, let alone when it's the social media platform and page of the POTUS. That person is representing you and me. If we go to another country, if we go to Canada, if we go to Mexico, people are pulling that data and they're basically linking his behavior to every single U.S. citizen that's out there, which is basically unfair because not everybody is a bigot, not everybody's racist, and I'm gonna call it what it is. We're not that way, okay? He does not represent me in particular. He might represent you if you're listening, but I highly doubt it. But let's flip the coin. And this is where this double standard and bias thing really needs to stop. And this is where a lot of the people that are supportive of this particular administration, this is where you kind of lose me. And this is why I want to say something to you. This is where you lose me. I'm a very flexible individual, open-minded, and I tend to listen to both sides more than I imply and I make my own judgment. Because I'm a big believer that there's always two sides to every story. There's always two perspectives. And I tried to be right there in the middle and not swing one way or the other. But when you are going out of your way to being, and I'm going to call it a bigot, and being disrespectful in this way, I can't stand behind that. I can't find myself being okay with that behavior, because if that had been the other way around, there would be people up in arms, there'll be social media disasters everywhere, which right now is damage control on everybody, on all those parties, and how they're going to go about it. I have my ideas, but we'll talk about that on a different episode. We've talked about psyops and media and how they influence all these things. We've spoken at this at length. If you've been listening to these podcasts, you know where I'm coming from on this one, because I think a lot of folks also see it themselves, that some things and some context or some content is directed to a certain audience specifically for a reason. But let's put this type of behavior, and this is where I want you guys to put on your thinking hat and your adult hats on, and your logic hat. If you're an educator or a professional watching this video, and at work, if you had posted this video at work about your previous predecessor, about, let's say you're a high school principal, and the previous principal you obviously disagreed with, and if you posted something about that individual in the school's social media page, you'd be fired. If I posted context like that or content like that on LinkedIn or Indeed or any of those hiring platforms, I'd be out of a job, and I would not be sought out to be a candidate for employment. I would have burned so many bridges. I would have been fired a long time ago. The second I hit send the following day, I guarantee HR would be in my office with walking papers. Yet we have individuals that can behave this way recklessly with zero accountability for it. And we're okay. And if you support this, that's your decision. But I want you to think about what you're following, what behavior you're allowing, what you're okay with. Because you have to seriously self-reflect whether are you sure you want to continue following this trend, or do you want to completely separate yourself from people socializing that with this particular act? Because that's what you're doing. And I'm not saying that supporting this particular party is a reflection of your racial beliefs, your beliefs, etc. No, I'm not saying that at all. So let's make that very clear. But what I am having a problem with is that things like this happen and there's zero accountability for it. And I'm honestly flabbergasted that we're here. I mean, we had a previous administration who was accused of, outside marital affairs. And that was a whole fiasco where basically the gentleman was on the verge of being impeached. But yet we are here with this particular gentleman who's being affiliated with other things that are way more worse. They are upsetting folks in other countries. They're doing things that are out of the norm, posting stuff on social media that is borderline what it is. And yet he's still getting support. So I wanted to touch on that a little bit, but not too much, right? Because I didn't want to make the episode about that. So now let's dive into something in particular. So when I was, sorry, I'm over here adjusting my chair, so apologies. Something in particular that I've been reading up on, because with the podcast, I like to read on the parental advice, suggestions, and just being very extra mindful of my behavior and how I am condoning myself in front of my kids. And I came across this doctor, and his name, passes me right now. I cannot think about it. And I should have written it down when I came up, but fuck it, it is what it is. When they asked this particular child psychologist, and he's a pretty well-renowned one, you might have heard this particular content in TikTok and other social media platforms or Reels or YouTube Shorts. You might have seen it. And they asked him, what advice do you have against parents who have multiple children? And his response was very easy. You have to understand and accept the fact that you will be three versions of parents when you have multiple children. And the parent you are to your oldest child versus the one that you are with your second versus the one that you are with your third, etc., are going to be completely different individuals. You're not going to be the same one. You cannot expect to parent all three the same way because they will all see you the same way. The parent you are with your oldest will never be the parent that your middle child will ever see. The parent of the youngest will never be the parent that the other siblings that came before got to enjoy. And I say that because that is 1000% true. And for me in particular, when my wife and I, we got married in 2007. And we've been together for a long time now. But we made a conscious decision to enjoy ourselves before we had our first child. And like any couple, you at that time when you're single, you're just dating, you're not married. I mean, you don't have kids yet. You're just enjoying your newlyweds, basically. You're going on trips, you're partying, you're doing the best that you can to enjoy your spouse, enjoying each other before you have the ability to settle down. Well, unfortunately, during this time, my wife and I were going through our own struggles, like every relationship does at some point. There's always a tipping point in every single marriage and relationship that just, it really stretches the max amount of patience on both sides on the relationship. Well, what happened with us, we did not plan or expect to have our first. It just happened. We know how it happened. Obviously, we know why it happened. However, we considered it a blessing. And there was a lot of apprehension, obviously, from my wife having her first child, because again, women go through a lot of changes, a lot of hormonal changes. Their body has to adapt and change. We didn't know what that was going to look like. And for obvious reasons, like every woman out there, maybe some women that are listening to this video, it's scary, your first go around, because now you're harboring a human being within you that you're going to have to take care of for the rest of your life. The rest of their life, they will be a part of you and you will be a part of them. And I still remember the first time that she told me, And I remember that it was a long weekend and she wasn't feeling good, but sometimes she suffers from migraines. So I figured it was one of those incidents or episodes where she just wasn't feeling it. And I remember her waking me up on the weekend and her telling me, hey, we got to talk. Now, of course, like this is like the main thing for every single human being and spouse, like, or a man in my case, that when your woman tells you, hey, we got to talk, your mind automatically goes down this little rabbit hole like a little hamster. It starts conjuring up all these scenarios of stuff that you might have done that maybe resulted in you getting in trouble. Were you on the wrong stupid shit on the computer? Did you click on the wrong thing on the phone? Did you make the wrong plans with someone? Did you forget to make a bill or pay a bill? Or did you make plans and didn't factor things in? So my mind immediately went there. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And then she showed me the strip that it was positive. And of course, instinctively, because I was on mental, I was like, well, you sure? Well, fuck yeah. And apparently she had taken one every single day and even made an appointment to go to the hospital to actually get a legit one. And she was pregnant. Now, then that's when the fun began. And firstborns, bam, go through it. They always encounter the worst of you, because if you haven't planned it, you're trying to manage yourself, your marriage, and trying to raise an adult. And that's a challenge in itself. You don't know how to properly take care of a baby. You're asking for help. You're Googling stuff. You're paranoid. You're anxious. Every single little cough or thing that child does, it's going to trigger some sort of anxiety within you that, oh my God, what's wrong with the kid? Now, if you have a really good support system that is able to provide some advice as to what to do, that's great. But not everybody has that luxury. So a lot of people are just kind of winging it. So with that comes a lot of stress. With that comes you being a little bit more of a helicopter parent over that child, you being less patient, less understanding, and just kind of learning as you go, because kids don't come with manuals, right? So you kind of have to learn as you go. And at the same time, with all the stresses, you still have to balance now your finances, because now you're not only buying for 2, you're buying for 3. And you're not only buying for 3, you're buying for this little creature and trying to make them so comfortable. You want to raise them right. Then you start downloading all your nonsense, because now you're trying to correct the stuff that was taught to you that you didn't like, and now you want to make a better version of yourself for them. However, the pressure's there for them to respond and react to what you are trying to teach them, and that doesn't work out that way. Kids will be kids, and they will learn and be receptive to things the way that they want to. They will learn at the speed that they want to learn. It's not going to be at your speed. So you get frustrated, you fight, you argue, you bicker, you over push, you overstep, overcorrect. You're just on edge. That energy, that vibe, you're going to download on that child, causing them to stress out. And then you wonder why they act the way that you do. That's your oldest child. Your second one will have a different version of you, a different parent, a little bit more patient, more understanding, more loving probably to some extent, because you learned what didn't work on the first one. You're going to fix it and get it right on the second one. And then the third typically gets the best of you. It's when you've figured it out, you are numb to the kid falling on their knees. You won't immediately run to them when they're crying. You will be the parent that will probably say, come on, suck it up, you'll be fine. You'll be more receptive to what works, what doesn't. You won't buy as much stuff as you did for the first one, because you realize that a lot of the stuff that you got for the child to make them feel comfortable was a lot of fluff. And in reality, you just needed the very, very simple things, and that was it. And that's where this message comes, that we as parents have to be mindful of that and know that that's what we're doing. Because I think a lot of parents tend to wonder why your oldest acts the way that they do. and then you think that it's them, when in reality, you caused that. You created that behavior. And in some cases, some parents unfortunately have the bad habit of having the oldest raise the other children. And that can have a massive, massive negative impact on your oldest, and it's completely unfair. And unfortunately, in a lot of cultures, and even some in the US, the oldest, if you have a lot of siblings, the oldest has hell of a lot of pressure to take care of the youngest, the middle, and everybody in between. If mom and dad are working 2 or 3 jobs, that's the one that's doing the homework with the rest of the kids. If for some reason mom is cooking dinner and the kid has an accident, that's probably the one that's going to be changing diapers. When they are the first ones to get their driver's license, they're the ones more likely to give the kids a ride to school. So they're learning as they go, but at the same time, selfishly, you're kind of taking away a little bit of their childhood and enjoyment. And instead, it's harboring some sort of resentment to the middle and youngest because they've been forced to take care of the rest. And it creates a big divide. And I've noticed that a lot of older brothers is the reason why they have a lot of falling out with the younger siblings, because the younger siblings never got to see the parents that the oldest did. They never got to understand why mom and dad just had all this falling out with the oldest consistently. Why dad was so hard on the oldest brother or the oldest sister to succeed. Yet, when it comes to the youngest, they tolerate everything. And in some cases, some younger children, some of the young kids tend to completely put blinders on, and they don't realize what they're doing, that in fact, that they are pushing the boundaries and pushing the envelope. So if you are the young sibling, you have to be mindful of that as well. That your parents that you see, that you love and cherish, are very different than the one that your oldest sibling saw and encountered. They got to see your parents the worst you're ever going to see them, and you're never going to see that version of your parent. If you are the youngest and you're listening to this, look at your older sibling, and I guarantee you, they saw your parents at their very, very worst. They saw your dad completely lose his shit, to the point that maybe he was punching walls, breaking down doors, throwing shit, cussing up a storm. Your mom having mental breakdowns consistently because they were trying to figure you out. They saw that, and that shit causes trauma for the oldest that maybe they cannot vocalize and explain to you. So you have to be mindful and understanding that's what you're doing. And if you are a parent and you think you never did that, I pause that. I challenge you to really look back at a time and situation when you were raising your kid, because I guarantee your child saw you very differently. And even you, if you are a household with multiple siblings, you know for a fact your mom and dad were very different with you than they were with your older sister or younger brother. Even though your parents might have been strict, there are different levels of strictness that maybe your parents had with the first one than they had with the second one. And with that level of sensitivity, you have to think of something, and this goes to single parents. And I've seen this a lot too also. You have to be very careful who you bring around your child. If you're a single mom, if you're a single dad, if you want to go out on dates, that's fine. It's completely okay. You're entitled to. You're a human being. You're an adult. But what I have a challenge with and a problem with is when I see women or men in general in particular that go from relationship to relationship without setting boundaries and expectations of what they want before they move on. And some women do a great job in creating this balance and protecting their child from whoever's going to come into their life has to really earn it because they value themselves, and that's great. However, there's certain women out there that are more eager to get nourishment physically and emotionally that they completely forget who they're impacting. And that's what I have a problem with. And if you are that individual, I will say this to you as advice. Your son or daughter is watching you go on these dates and relationships consistently. You are creating the norm for them to see. If mom and dad are constantly going out on dates consistently, bringing in new people that you're going to have to now meet and learn their name, and then all of a sudden from one weekend to the next, they're not there anymore, you're not creating stability for that child to see. There is no set foundation of what a relationship should look like or what it functions like, because they've never seen it in you. They've never seen you stable, so they don't know what stability looks like. They've never seen you calm, maybe calm with them, but as far as you being happy, kids are very receptive and very mindful when kids are sad. When parents are sad. I was one of that type. I knew when my mom was sad. I knew when my dad was angry. I just got that vibe. You walk in through the front door with a big ass fucking cloud over your head. Obviously, everybody's going to be a little gun shy to try to talk to you. But you are creating that demeanor, that behavior, that act. And if that is your style, you are causing more harm than good. And if you are an individual who thinks that, I'm not doing anything wrong, my parents are raising them, that's great that you have the opportunity to have that support system. However, that's not the end all be all. You are still the parent. The grandparents will be gone. And at some point, you want that child to look to you for stability, comfort, and also security. And if you're not providing that, you have to really rethink what you're doing wrong. Because that kid, when they get older, they will be adults themselves, and they're not going to have any sort of relationship with you and how things should be. There's not going to be no closeness, because they're immediately going to relate stability and family to the grandparents instead of with the mom. The grandparents created security and a warm blanket. You created recklessness, instability, and emotional imbalance. And that's not good. Now, if you are very picky and you like to enjoy your single life, by all means, go for it. But shield and protect that child from seeing that side too. And some do better jobs than others. But the other thing this one's going to really piss a lot of people off. If you are a male, if you're a man listening to this, and you have multiple children with multiple baby mamas, I advise you, this is a man-to-man advice, be very careful of who you date, because there are women or partners out there that want something different from you that you're not going to be able to provide. So don't bullshit them at all. Don't play mind games. If you are in it for physical stuff and nothing else, put it out there from the very beginning. Because the last thing you want is for somebody from the opposite sex to have false aspirations that that relationship will turn into something when it's not. Because you're causing more harm than good. And if you are a woman and you are dating somebody, women, be smart, dude. Don't be reckless. Have some damn self-respect and value yourself. Hold on one second. Oh, the kids are losing their shit. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. If you're a woman and you are dating somebody who has multiple baby mamas, multiple babies, and he's not living with any of them, that's a major red flag. You're not going to change that man. Stop thinking that you will. I'm telling you from a male's point of view, you will not effing change them and who they are. They are who they are. If they are on their first baby mama, that's one thing. If they're on their second, they're pushing it. If they're on their third, okay, we might have a problem. If they are on their fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, or ninth, you have no business being in that relationship unless you are serious about being just hit it and quit it, and that's it. But if you think that that man is going to be settling down and make you a wife, or you're going to make him a husband, you done lost your mind and you're lying to yourself. You're just setting yourself up for failure. So stop thinking that. And the same thing with a man. If you have a woman who has multiple baby daddies and has 5 or 6 different kids, 5 different dads, you're not going to make her a wife. She's not that type. You're going to make her that wife. Yeah, you can. But think about what you're going to be dealing with. All the baby daddy drama, all the child support issues, all that nonsense. Do you really want that? And I'm not belittling women that have multiple children, because shit happens. But let's be conscious of the fact that there is other little human beings that are looking up to this person for advice as a guide of how to go about their life. And if you don't think they're watching, if you don't think kids are looking, you done effed up already, because you're lying to yourself. So, with that being said, that's my advice for the day. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you guys for chiming in. I really greatly appreciate it. It's about 45 minutes. I told everybody that I was trying to keep everything around 46 minutes. And I understand this episode started off a little bit weird. I kind of deviated on some stuff that I really wanted to chime into. Tomorrow is the Super Bowl. I already gave my prediction, 30-17, New England Patriots. I put a bunch of stuff on the line, including... Here's the other thing. I put my profile pic on the line, so if you guys see some shenanigans on the icon, it's not because I'm changing Niner fan bases, it's because I lost a bet. So be mindful of that. But anyway, I digress. Have a great evening. Be safe, be well, most importantly, self-love.